On November 19th, 1985, 67-year-old Dexter Stefonek was brutally murdered as he was resting at the Bad Route Rest Area, which is located in Glendive, Montana. Now you're probably wondering to yourself, Jeff, what did this 67-year-old father do to possibly warrant his own death? Would you believe me if I told you he did absolutely nothing wrong? The running theory is that basically Dexter, he was having hearing issues. Somebody could have been knocking on his car door, and Dexter just did not realize it because he was probably focusing on like a road map or something because he was trying to make his way home. And the person could have pulled him out of his vehicle and basically shoved him into the back of his own vehicle and, ended up killing him. But this is not a reason that you kill somebody. Kill somebody who may have simply ignored you. That tells you a lot about this person. We are going to be finding out a lot about this case coming right on up next. Now, the real question is, what kind of loser attacks and kills a 67-year-old man as he's simply sitting in his vehicle at a rest stop as he's trying to make his way home? I'll tell you what kind of man does. A loser. A loser does that. I would like to see that piece of shit try that on somebody who's younger. But then again, that's the way these criminals are. Criminals are cowards. They're opportunists. But sadly, Dexter was killed, but thankfully this case has been solved. Let me get my headphones on and we will start watching this case. Okay, I got my headphones on. Let's pull up the video. So 3, 2, 1.
Many of us have driven along a lonely stretch of highway.
Now, I've gone on record before when I covered these types of cases where it's either like one person or a group of people, but they're like alone on, like, say, a real long empty highway, or they're alone on the ocean. I love these type of atmospheric cases that Unsolved Mysteries used to cover. Because it's literally just like one person against nature, even though nature wasn't the enemy here, it was a killer. But there's just something about these cases where people are isolated. Those are the cases I really like to hear about.
It is an unsettling feeling when you go for miles without seeing other people, when you know that a cry for help would not be heard. We're about to see the story of a man whose worst fears came true. It all began innocently when he said goodbye to his son and set out to drive alone across 5 sparsely populated states. In the winter of 1985, 68-year-old Dexter Stefonek.
Oh, that's weird. The Unsolved Mysteries wiki has him listed as 67. Oh, that's weird. Here, let me pull it up. Here, let's do this. Move it over here. There you go. Yeah, 6 here. Oh, hold on. Let me enlarge it a little bit. Yeah, and they have I think they said 68, but here it's listed as 67 years old. I'll have to rewatch this video after I'm done recording it, and then if it needs, I can go and edit it. Okay, so let's do this.
Prepared to drive from his son's Oregon farm to his home in Wisconsin. 6 years earlier, Dexter had retired from a Wisconsin paper mill. He had been married for 44 years, but in 1984, his wife Vivian died.
I can only imagine how bad he feels. His wife passed away. He goes to, visit with his son. And then, on his way home, it's going to be revealed pretty quickly here that he wanted to go back home because it sounds like he was starting to miss, his wife and everything. So he wants to go home, and he ends up not making it home. And that really just pisses me off,
A few months later, Dexter went to visit his grandchildren and his son in Corbett, Oregon. But as the first anniversary of Vivian's death approached, Dexter wanted to go back home.
He came out, and we thought that he'd probably spend the winter with us. And then it got to be a difficult time of year for him, and I tried to convince him to not leave then.
Now with your mother gone, you know I'm going to be out here to see you as often as possible. I had a good time, but I've got to go back.
Winter was already set in. There was really nothing he needed to go back to Wisconsin for. We discussed that even if he got partway home and decided to come back out, that was fine. Turn around and come back out again.
If it was me, if that was my dad, now I don't know what, Dexter's son, maybe he had, like, since it sounds like he had kids, maybe he couldn't take, like, time off from work, maybe he had, like, an important job. But if Dexter was my dad, if I could, I would try to drive him back home, or at least be with my dad, like, until we got, him back home. Because the fact is, he's already kind of suffering from the loss of his wife. And I would want to make sure that he had a safe trip home, basically.
He was anxious to get home. And he drove away. That's the last I saw him.
Dexter Stefonek left his son's home in Oregon on the morning of November the 18th, 1985. Dexter had made the 2,000-mile trip from Oregon to Wisconsin.
Oh, dude, 2,000 miles. Now, I have a fear of driving short distances, so the thought of driving like 2,000 miles, nope, I cannot do that, nope. Dexter Stefonek is, he was braver than I ever will be.
Many times before, because he wanted to finish the drive as he would knows, but would pull into rest areas instead. November the 19th, 1985, on a bleak stretch of Montana highway at the Bad Route Rest Area, a burning car was found.
I'm not sure. I'm hoping that everything went okay. There was like a little bit of a hiccup when the video was playing, so I'll have to rewatch this, and if need be, I can re-edit it and everything. But yeah, so basically his vehicle was found in flames shortly after.
When I arrived at the rest area and pulled in behind the vehicle, the inside was completely engulfed in flames. I went over and talked to the State Highway Department. They informed me they didn't see any person inside the vehicle.
Okay, I know you can't really see it because of the the video having to be a little bit transparency due to copyright issues and all that stuff. But the vehicle that's on fire, it's actually the same vehicle you see right here in the background. This is the vehicle that Dexter was driving back home in.
A computer check of the license plates revealed that the car belonged to Dexter Stefonek of Rhinelander, Wisconsin. It was only 26 hours after Dexter had left his son's home in Oregon.
Before my mom died, I was the type of son that called her at least once or twice a day. Like when I would be off, like when I was at college and everything, and she would be here at home, I would always call her like during my breaks, like class breaks and everything, just to make sure she was okay or see if she ever needed anything. So I was the type of son that was always like in constant contact with my mom. Now you got to remember, this was back in '84, I think they said it was. So basically, we didn't have cell phones back then. But if I could, I'd still try to find a way to contact my mom. But I'm guessing since times are different now, I'm guessing if you're on the road, you're not going to be able to always reach them that easily.
The sheriff's department immediately searched the area, worried that Dexter might have begun walking for help and been overcome by the bitter cold.
And that actually makes sense, if I was investigating this, until it turned out that it was a murder, if I was investigating this, the first thing I would think was, car's on fire. Maybe Dexter had an accident, or maybe the car, like there was a short or like an electrical short or something. Car caught fire. Dexter started going to try to get help. That's the way my mind would originally approach this as. I would not be approaching this as like a murder because of the fact that you don't want to think the most negative. But like I said, I think that there could have been like a electrical short or electrical issue with the car. Car caught fire. Dexter went out to try to get help, and then he could be out there in the wilderness, you know, cold and everything. That's how I would originally have approached this.
Found nothing.
Yeah, we're getting some good indications in here.
Sheriff Jim George had an arson expert examine the car. He found that the fire had been set deliberately, using gasoline. Sheriff George also noticed that the driver's seat was pushed all the way back.
So for it being all the way back, that means the person had to be really tall. Really, really tall. And I'm not trying to make light of it. The first thing I always think of when I think of tall people in short vehicles is, I think it's the very first, it's either the first or second Police Academy movie where, that tall, Hightower, I think that's his name. Hightower went to get into a person's, vehicle, and the vehicle was too short, or too small, and Hightower ended up yanking out the chair and everything. That's the way I start thinking it.
Dexter Stefonek, being a short man, would have had to have the seat all the way up to the front to drive it. So it had to be a larger man driving that vehicle, 6 foot or larger.
Me, I like to have my vehicle, I like to have the chair or the seat in my vehicle all the way back. I wouldn't say I'm exactly tall, but I like to have that extra space, though. But if you're a short person, you need to have that chair all the way up front so you can actually reach the pedals and everything.
Law enforcement officials were stymied. Who was the 6-foot-tall man who had driven Dexter Stefonek's car?
Okay, let's say it again. It was a loser. It's a criminal that killed an aging, defenseless old man. I bet you he felt so fucking great of himself.
Could this person have set fire to the car? Finally, where was Dexter? Had he been killed, or had he simply disappeared into the harsh Montana winter? Sheriff George attempted to establish the chronology of events from the morning that Dexter's car had been burned.
The sad thing is, I cannot help but wonder if this entire event could have been prevented, because Dexter, instead of stopping off like at hotels to rest, he was just going to try to drive as far as he could and stop at like at rest stops and get rest that way. I can't help but wondering if he went to a hotel instead, to get rest every day of his trip, then this could have been possibly been avoided, I guess.
His car had been discovered just after 10 a.m. Nearly 3 hours earlier, Fred Sigley, custodian of the Bad Route Rest Area, had arrived for work as usual.
I got to the rest area between 8 and 8:30. There was a pickup parked there, and there was nobody around. I really didn't pay no attention to it.
There was a vehicle there, you didn't see anybody around, but you're not going to pay any attention to it? You work there, dude. The first thing that would be popping in my head is like, this is either an abandoned vehicle or it's like something is wrong. I want to just see a vehicle that's normally not there, unattended, be like, oh well, like I wouldn't be thinking like that. But then again, I've been told that I'm a very cynical thinker, so
About 15 minutes later, at 8:45 a.m., Clyde Mitchell, a Montana highway maintenance supervisor, made a stop at the rest area.
Fred's pickup was there, and a white Chevy pickup facing southeast. Went into the utility room and talked to Fred and asked Fred if he had seen anybody or how long the pickup had been there, and he didn't know how long it had been there. So then I took a closer look of it. I saw Arizona plates on the back. Walked around the complete outfit and noticed it was a four-wheel drive Chevy with blue trim and a cow catcher on the front. At the time, I didn't think there was anything suspicious about it.
At approximately 9:15 a.m., Clyde left to complete his regular rounds. 15 minutes later, at 9:30 a.m., as Fred Sigley was leaving the rest area, Dexter Stefonek's brown Plymouth Horizon pulled in. The driver got out carrying 2 large plastic containers.
Are you having any problems? No, I just run out of gas and I had to go get some.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I was the attendant here, the guy who was working at this location, am I the only one that finds it a bit odd that this guy gets out of Dexter's vehicle, and then he goes to this truck and starts putting gas in it? Like, how would he have gotten this other vehicle from? I don't think they mentioned if this rest stop had like payphones or anything. So it's like, to me, I'd be like, okay, dude, how did you get this other car if you're stuck here and your truck had no gas? Like, where's the owner of this other vehicle that you have? Like I'd be asking these kind of questions. I just feel it'd be kind of weird that you have a guy whose truck ran out of gas, but somehow he was able to magically go and get another vehicle to get the gas to fill his truck. What's he going to do with this vehicle, with Dexter's vehicle, once he got his truck filled up? That's the kind of questions I'd be asking myself.
He was around 6 feet tall, between 35 and 40 years old. He was real light complected and clean shaved. No sign of anything wrong with him. No, there was nothing unusual about him. He didn't seem to be
The fact that he came to this rest stop in that vehicle and then he was tending to his truck, it didn't register to you that, how did he get this other vehicle? Where's this person at? Okay, let's just say if like this all happened. Okay, we all know this all happened. There would have to be a person in this vehicle to have driven the vehicle, because like when the killer filled up his truck with gas, he would then leave. Who's going to take possession of this vehicle? There was supposed, you would think that logically that there would need to be another person to drive this vehicle back to wherever it came from. And this guy here that's talking right here, that you can't right here, it's like it doesn't really dawn on him. It's like, dude, like, hello, where is the car just going to magically drive itself back to wherever it came from? No, there needed to be another person, and there is no other person. Like, okay. Let's continue on.
excited or nothing.
The authorities had no idea who the man was or what had happened to Dexter. Less than a half hour after Fred Sigley saw the man at the rest area, Dexter's car was discovered there, in flames. Nearly 4 months later, a local couple, Bill and Cindy Shaw, went to a remote landfill 17 miles from the Bad Route rest area.
My husband and I came out to dump some garbage, and there was a wallet laying on the ground, and it still had the driver's license in it. It was current.
Found a wallet.
So I handed it to Bill, and he looked at it, and he wondered if it belonged to the man whose car burned up at the rest area a few months before. And later, we just started looking around, and there was a bunch of stuff in the dump that didn't belong there.
It's a dump. It's an illegal dump. What do you normally not, with the exception of, sadly, Dexter Stefonek, that they're going to find pretty quickly here. What is there like some sort of unwritten rule of stuff you do not dump at an illegal dump? I swear this drives me nuts. Sometimes you hear people say, like, well, this just stuff you don't find at a dump. What do you not find at an illegal dump? Please fill me in. What do you normally not see at an illegal dump?
Hadn't been there when we were there before, and we each kind of went our own direction, trying to see if there's anything else that didn't quite belong in the dump.
Boy, is the shaving kit, the suitcase.
The boot over here is practically new.
Both Cindy and her husband Bill found several pieces of men's clothing. Bill picked up a boot, and when he stood up, saw a man's foot partially hidden beneath a mattress.
Oh, that ain't no good.
Bill and Cindy called the authorities. The coroner positively identified the body as Dexter Stefonek and said that he had been shot twice in the head.
There were marks on his hands. There was damage done to his neck and throat area. And he had a bruise or damaged area on the frontal part of his skull that was probably caused by a beating or some type of injury of that sort.
Sheriff's investigators discovered that there was money in Dexter's suitcase, so robbery seemed an unlikely motive. Also, the clothing which had been conspicuously placed around the landfill belonged to Dexter and appeared to have been placed there just days before it was found.
Maybe the killer who killed Dexter, maybe he went back there as a way to like kind of relive the memory, basically. Maybe they figure that nobody ever goes out this area, that he would just go there and pay, I don't know, not respect, but go there to pay attention to what he did. That way he could like psychologically kind of like just live in the moment, you know.
The things that we found that day were just not things that had been here before. And it really bothered me that the week before, everything was normal. And 7 days later, all of this stuff appeared.
This, once again, granted, thankfully that they did go there and they found Dexter. But this literally always makes me kind of like wonder, like, what the fuck do you normally, like, what is normal illegal dump stuff? I hear the words illegal dump, and I just think of anything that can be thrown away that you just don't want, like you just don't have a use for. For example, this PlayStation 5 controller, toss it, this pain roll on, toss it, like what do you expect to find and not find in an illegal dump,
Strangely, Dexter Stefonek's body seemed to have been in the landfill for several months.
The condition of the body would indicate that it had probably been in the dump site from the time that the car was found burning until the time it was discovered. I have no reason to believe that it wasn't.
Okay, Tim, let's look around and see if we can find anything.
1 week later, the authorities found one final clue. A small line of graffiti written in pencil in the Bad Route Rest Area men's room.
Hey, Tim, look at this.
It began with the words hot jock, and other keywords seemed to refer to Dexter Stefonek's murder.
Hot jock from Wisconsin, 1185.
My own theory is that someone wanted us to see it. Hot jock could be...
It's most likely a CB handle, which they say.
A CB handle. It referred to shot. It had the Wisconsin written in the graffiti, and a date indicating November.
Sheriff George believes the graffiti was written by the killer.
I think he was telling law enforcement something. I think he was taunting law enforcement or bragging to law enforcement about committing a homicide.
The sheriff has attempted to reconstruct Dexter Stefonek's last hours.
And this is what really is just sad. It's sad because, like I said, the guy was going there. It isn't like Dexter Stefonek deserved this at all. The guy was most likely tired. The guy was tired. He was driving for like 20 plus hours, it sounds like. He's probably just going there to rest, and then he ends up, like he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Please explain to me how a 67-year-old grandfather, deserves to die when he did absolutely nothing wrong, No, I don't like that at all.
He believes that Dexter arrived at the Bad Route Rest Area soon after 7 a.m. on November the 19th, and that his murderer was already there.
The sad thing is that literally, if Dexter wasn't there, then possibly somebody else who showed up could have been killed. Yeah. I'm not sure what really I can say is like, it seems more like a just crime of opportunity,
Dexter was hard of hearing. It is a sheriff's theory that the killer tried to get his attention and failed.
Sir, could you help me? I've run out of gas. Could you take me to town to get some gas? What's your problem? Get out of the car! Get out of the car!
It is unclear at what point Dexter Stefonek was actually killed. but the authorities are convinced that the mistake.
If a person now that they believe that this could have been due to the killer needing gas for his truck, because they said the workers said that they saw him putting gas into the truck. Even so, even if that's the case, for this guy to get that fucking agitated at the fact that a 67-year-old grandfather, was not paying any attention to him, for him to get this riled up that he will open up a door, pull out a gun, basically kidnap the driver, that tells you this person should not be allowed to be in the general population with people. If you ignoring this guy gets him so upset that he pulls out a firearm, that should tell you that this guy has fucking psychological problems.
Mysterious murderer abducted Dexter, and after killing him, hid his body in the landfill. Sheriff George believes that the murderer returned to the rest area, doused Dexter's car with gasoline, and set it on fire, both to destroy evidence and to distract officials so he would have time to escape.
Did he really need, yeah, granted, the whole issue of needing to escape, it's an out of the way, rest stop. The two workers who were there already possibly were gone for the rest of the day. What's the odds that all of a sudden this out of this bleak, desolate rest stop, what's the chances that it would all of a sudden become heavily populated? I don't think it would. I don't think it would. I could understand destroying the vehicle because of evidence, but to give himself a head start, the workers are already gone. They're already gone. It's like, the guy could have literally burned the vehicle and left. I don't think that burning the vehicle to get a head start, and to throw everybody off, I don't think that really matters at all. The guy was already gone by the time people were investigating the vehicle. And you also have to remember that when the vehicle was first found on fire, they thought that Dexter could have been lost in the wilderness. The thought of his murder wasn't even determined until the vehicle was like, I think they said that vehicle was, searched and everything.
Dexter Stefonek's killer is still at large. Only two clues exist: the description of the suspect's vehicle and the sketchy description of the suspect himself.
Okay, so that was the case of Dexter Stefonek. Sadly, he was a grandfather that was brutally murdered for no reason, other than the killer being a piece of shit, if you ask me. And I don't feel bad for the killer. I hope that he gets a death penalty wherever he is. He was apprehended. Here, let me switch over to this. Let's do this. There we go. And then let's fix this. Okay, so we are going to go to the Unsolved Mysteries wiki, which you already see here, and we will read, some of this information. Dexter Stefonek, his real name was Dexter William Stefonek. No nicknames. Location was the Bad Route Rest area in Glendive, Montana. The date was November 19th, 1985. Okay, let's scroll down. We already know the case itself. Let's see here. Suspects. We already know the suspect. Extra notes. This case first aired on the April 12th, 1989 episode. It was submitted to the show by Sheriff Jim George. It was also featured on the Trail Went Cold podcast. Okay, so results is unsolved. Let's see here. I thought they said that it was solved. I could have sworn that they had an update that I I thought there was an update. Maybe I was thinking of a different case. Let's see here. Let's see. On January 19th, 2024, the Dawson County Sheriff's Office announced that they believed 79-year-old Charles Gary Sullivan was Dexter's killer. He is currently serving a 15-year sentence in the 1979 murder of Julia Woodward. So, so we have a guy here who's already in prison on another murder charge, who was killed in Reno, Nevada. He was arrested for her murder in 2019 after DNA evidence linked him to the crime. He previously had to provide a DNA sample when he was required to register as a sex offender following a 2007 sexual assault case in California. Jesus Christ, this piece of shit. Rape and murder. And you understand now you have to kind of understand why I don't think these criminals can be rehabilitated. They cannot. Criminals cannot be rehabilitated. Let's see here. Sullivan emerged as a person of interest in the Dexter's case in 2022. He was linked to the crime based on statements from witnesses at the rest stop that day. Sullivan's vehicle license plate, traveling pattern, age, and physical description matched the witnesses' statements. Also, his criminal history led investigators to believe that he probably killed Dexter. When investigators went to speak to him about Dexter's murder, he invoked his Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. I'm sorry, but if you have nothing to hide, why are you invoking your Fifth Amendment? However, the sheriff's office will not file charges against... What? They will not file... the sheriff's office will not file charges against Sullivan for Dexter's murder because they do not believe they have enough evidence to charge or convict him. Despite this, the case... It's not closed! There's been no fucking people arrested. According to some sources, Sullivan made comments to cellmates about what exactly happened to Dexter. However, this information has not been confirmed. In 1997, Fred Siegel passed away at the age of 81. How can the case be closed when you don't even have the person responsible? It's like, if you're watching this, it's like, say you have a daughter. You have a daughter that was brutally murdered. And then all of a sudden, the police say, okay, well, case is closed. But we don't have anybody there to charge in your daughter's murder. How the fuck would that make you feel? I don't know about you, but if it was me, I'd be pissed off. It's like, wait, what? What? You don't have a person responsible for my kid's murder, but you're saying the case is closed? No, you open that fucking case back up and you find my daughter's killer. That's what I would do. Okay, let's check out Dexter Stefonek at Find a Grave. It always pisses me off when they don't have a suspect arrested, nobody's been arrested or whatever, and they just close the case. Oh, it's closed. It's not closed if there's been no fucking person arrested. Let's see here. Dexter Stefonek, date of birth was January 31st, 1918 in Rhinelander, Oneida County, Wisconsin, USA. Date of death was November 19th, 1985, age 67, in Glendive, Dawson County, Montana. Did I say Montana? Montana, sorry. He was buried at Forest Home Cemetery in Rhinelander, Oneida County, Wisconsin, USA. And look, here's his family members. His father was John Frank Stefonek, 1894. Wow. 1894 to 1928. Ethel May Schultz Rude, 1897 to 1967. He had a couple siblings, Harold Stefonek and Walter Stefonek. He had a half sibling, Robert Gordon Rude Sr., and then his wife, Vivian E. Abby Stefanik, and she was born 1905 till 1984. They were married 1940. Let's take a look at some of his pictures here. Here's a picture that was on Unsolved Mysteries. Here, let's do it. There you go. Okay, here's his tombstone. Here's a news article. Another news article. And another one. This is one of the cases that always kind of sticks out with me because of the fact, like I said, I like the cases where it talks about people who were like on the road by themselves or on the ocean by themselves, and you're just alone for like hundreds, if not thousands of miles all around you. There's like nobody around. Those are the kind of cases that really kind of gets my attention, yeah. Okay, but that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this case. This case upset me because of the fact that even though they have a person, a suspect, they can't do anything because of lack of evidence, so they just close the case. They close the case. But there's been no fucking closure. The person who killed Dexter's still out there, it's like I make you a bet that these detectives that close this case, they would be upset if it was their loved one that was taken from them, and then the police officers tell them, "Oh, we're going to close the case now. We're going to close the case. There's just not enough evidence. The case is closed." The case is not just closed because they say there is no real closure, But that is it. That was my commentary on the case of Dexter Stefonek. I hope you've enjoyed this. And as always, if you like what you watch, feel free to click that like and the subscribe button. And I will see you next time. My name is Jeff, aka GCurse. Wish you all a great day. Stay safe, everybody. Peace out.